even though he shot himself in the foot and done it to himself, you're like, God, I hope his relationship with his daughter gets better. I hope the wife can forgive him. And
Uh,
yeah,
Song will be him climbing up the scaffolding or some unfinished building, dressed as bloody Batman, Fathers for Justice, falling off and breaking his hip, and then having to piss into a bag for the rest of his life.
yeah, okay. Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy, it's John, and it's music listening time. John is going to offer up a song that I have yet to hear, and I'm going to go off and give it a listen. Come back, and we're going to chop it up for a while about the band, about the song, all things in between. John, what have you in store for me today, sir?
Right, I've got a song for you from a band. This all came about because I sort of teased some lyrics in the intro to one of our episodes, and the reaction was such that I had no choice but to move it up the line and bring it in.
Okay.
Which got me to thinking, what I do a few lyrics, and I realized I had no clue which songs I'd already done. So I went back and I've listened to them all, and I'm going to go back into our previous episodes and drop the videos as reveals for all the lyric intros that I've done. So if you want to go back into the old episodes in the next few days, you'll see little links in the description that will say lyric intro and the link, and then you'll be able to see what the hell I was spouting. And with varying degrees of delight, I'm sure, some of the songs more than others. This one is a delight, however, and the band is Squeeze, and the song is Up the Junction.
Yeah, we have definitely talked about this band and this song before. The last time we talked about it, even then I thought we had talked about them before. And that was on the Verve Pipe, the freshman video. We discussed that song a little bit. Remind me, or if you can, if it's even on if you can recall, the correlation there was lyrically and narrative based, or was it music based?
Um, Narrative.
Narrative. Okay, great. Then yeah, I got everything I need. I'm kind of looking forward to this because that isn't that far in my rear view for me to not be able to. Okay, so interesting. Let me go off, give this a listen, and I will come back and let you and everybody out there know what I thought of Squeeze and Up the Junction. Yeah, interesting start here. We get this lovely little melody on the keys. Nice, simple but pleasant little drum beat behind it. A pause for a moment. Not quite a pregnant pause, but a pause. And a couple drum hits, and we're into the verse proper here. And I have to say, when he started to sing, I got shades of like early Lennon voice. It kind of reminded me of like early to mid Beatles era John Lennon vocals. Not a replica or like a facsimile of it, but it's close enough that I'm drawing some correlations there. I don't know if that's just me or if maybe other people share that opinion, but kind of sounds like him a little bit, which is always pleasant. And it sounds like we have a boy meets girl situation here. And I'm wondering where it goes from here. But so far, it's nice. It's pleasant, and the melody's almost sweet and slightly upbeat.
We moved into a basement with thoughts of our engagement. We stayed in by the telly, although the room was smelly. We spent our time just kissing. The job with Stanley. He said I'd come in handy and started me on Monday. So I had a bath on Sunday. I worked 11 hours and bought the girl some flowers. She said she'd seen a doctor and nothing now could stop her. I worked all through the winter, the weather bright and bitter. I put a
It's interesting because I think John mentioned this song when we were doing The Freshman by The Verve, and I can't help but think there are some similarities even to this point in the narrative, or maybe that's just my mind playing games, but it sounds like, I don't know, they've moved into a basement, they're in young love, she's going to a doctor. Is this like a rushed love situation because of a pregnancy, perhaps? I don't know. To this point, he's doing a really good job of telling the story over this canvas that is this simple but very pleasant music. So kudos to him and them for being able to tell this story in such a clear fashion, where you're picking up everything. You know, metaphors are great and stuff, but it's also really fun to, and I think exhibits some sort of talent to just be able to tell a linear story over top of music, and that sounds like what they're doing here.
away a tenner each week to make her better. And when the time was ready, we had to sell the telly. Late evenings by the fire and little kicks inside hers. This morning at 4:50, I took her rather nifty down to an incubator, but 30 minutes later she gave birth to a daughter. Within a year a walker, she looked just like a mother. If there could be another. And now she's 2 years older, her mother's with a soldier. She left me when my drinking became a proper stinging. The devil came and took me from bar to street to bookie. No more nights by the telly, no more nights nappy smelling. Alone here in the kitchen, I feel there's something missing. I beg for some forgiveness, but begging's not my business. And she won't write a letter, although I always tell her. And so it's my assumption I'm really of the junction.
Yeah, that was just fantastic storytelling. And it, kind of a shame the way it all ended with him kind of fucking everything up with drinking and gambling and bad habits. I gotta say that last verse when he owns that, when he takes ownership of his fuck ups, the music takes this sort of I don't know, it's reserved, like it's withdraw, it's coming within, and it I think it captures the mood of his the tone and his, like, the remorse in his tone. So it's really great songwriting to be able to know what you're going to do lyrically with that last verse, and how you want the music to help create atmosphere around that and mood. So this drawing of the music inward, that slightly subdued nature, kind of speaks to the, oh shucks, I've really screwed this up kind of mood or tone to the lyrics. Pretty genius stuff. And like I said earlier, and I maintain, there's nothing crazy musically that's happening within the song, and that's okay. But when you do mechanisms like that, that makes up for not having all these moving parts musically and all these different pieces and bridges and all that stuff. Sometimes that stuff can be overrated. That nuanced mechanism of just drawing the music in a little bit for that last verse to really emphasize this man's come to Jesus moment where he's realized he screwed the pooch in this marriage, this relationship, even his relationship with his daughter, is really, really interesting and a great mechanism to convey, again, the sentiment behind it all. So yeah, I can see why John offered this to me and why it was the Verve tune that that inspired him to bring it up and to give this to me. I'd like to learn a little bit more about this song and about the band itself, and the only way to do that is to get back to our friend John.
So you're back from listening to Up the Junction. What are your thoughts?
First and foremost, I just got done doing the reaction to the song, and I'm pretty sure when I was referencing the song, I said the Verve and not the Verve Pipe. So forgive me, everyone out there. But yes, I could see why the narrative style of this song would make you think of the Verve Pipe and the Freshmen. This didn't seem as weighty to me as that, but there were musically, because lyrically and the story being told, there was weight and heft to what he was saying. Although there were some fun thing, I got chuckles out of talking about rooms being smelly and nappy smelling later on in the song as it went through, but nonetheless, the overall story being told is an interesting one and kind of a sad one. So yeah, we get this like lovely, first of all, hilarious, the keyboardist, again featuring the band's name on the back of his shirt, but he was just a character in general. The sort of keyboard synth player. What?
He's quite famous.
Really?
Yes, he has a certain TV show called Later with.
Oh, that's your boy Jules. Wow, yeah, because I've only seen him like more recently, and this was obviously some time ago, and he had the glasses on and the longer hair. So I was just seeing there's a funny guy smoking a cigar, being cheeky with the camera, and the actor who was handing him tea at one point in the video, I thought was kind of funny. It was cool to be able to see the video as well. So the visuals were a lot of fun on this one too. And there was an interesting juxtaposition between the two sort of main band members featured throughout most of this, in him and the lead singer / guitarist, because Holland looks like, like he's a little bit of a roughneck or a rock and roller. He's got kind of that look about him with the glasses and everything. But your boy singing the song looks like such a Tucker Carlson yuppie, like with his button shirt and there, and the hair coiffed it over. It was just a funny juxtaposition between those two visages of the members of the band. But it starts off with Jules on playing a lovely little synthy keyboard based melody and a pleasant drum beat. And then there is an abrupt but not so pregnant pause, and I use that phrase intentionally. We get a little couple drum roll hits, and then we're just off into the first verse. And the verse has this lovely flow to it, not only musically but lyrically. Like everything, it's so easy to follow. It's such an easy narrative to follow. And I got to be honest, the singer, as much as I was giving him shit about the way he looked, which that's not really fair. He kind of reminded me of like his voice reminded me of earlier to mid Beatles era John Lennon a little bit. Not a replica or just like a direct cookie cutter version, but just it for whatever reason that's where my mind went.
It's that kind of mini rasp which is between back of the throat and back of the nose.
Yes, that's probably what it is.
And as Lennon gets older, it gets more nasal, doesn't it? And
yes,
Liam Gallagher,
exactly right. Yep. So yeah, it was. As a huge Lennon mark, it was fun to draw a correlation there for me. And given the narrative of the tune, it sounds like a tale, like at least in this juncture, like a tale of young and perhaps rushed love. Which then leads me to some conclusions at this point that this would be about what rushes the process of love. Oh, oftentimes that's pregnancy. It sort of shotguns things into motion. Now I don't know if that's accurate in the way things played out lyrically, but that's just what I caught on to at this point. But this is where I start to see it turn from the verve pipe into its own thing, because I thought this was then going to lead to some sort of, you know, medical decision made by the female character, which she does mention. Like, she mentions going to see a doctor. So I'm really thinking this is the same. But then not very much later, you get these allusions to, like, is it like movement in the belly, or like, so it's, I'm wondering if they've sort of button hooked me here, and I thought they were going to go one way and they went another. Because I was thinking, oh, this is going to be about terminating a pregnancy or something like that, but it sounded more like a rushed relationship built on shaky grounds because of its rushed nature.
Sorry to butt in here, but I think it's just really interesting that I went on the lyric website just to double check what I got and some of the comments. And it's interesting that it's very much a North American viewpoint that brings up the stuff about termination like it's a question. It wouldn't even be thought as if it's something to do with that in this country. It just didn't spring to anyone else's mind. You got the sort of Brits commenting and then the Americans commenting, and they're talking about sort of approach, because it's more of a question raised in your country, I think, this pro-life thing and the sort of, you know, the polarization between especially at the moment. Whereas some of these comments are years old though, but it's always been there, as it were.
Oh,
But it's not really it's not really that big a question in this country at all. So it would be it would be really odd for that to come up within the song. If you see what I mean.
Yeah. And I think that I'm also inclined to instantly go there because I'm going back to a song that was explicitly about that content. So I'm already in that headspace.
Yeah.
But your point is probably right and well made, that this sort of, it's a North American thing that it's always in the forefront of our politics and stuff like that. So I can understand that.
It's just really interesting, you know,
from a sociological thing and cultural thing, right? Yeah. So then we have references to the female figure in the song saying a doctor and nothing could stop her, which again makes me think of the pregnancy. And so now I'm thinking that this is about what I now think it's not about, because we have subsequent lyrics that would reference kicks inside her and then outright confirmation of a daughter being born, one who looks very much like her mother. The content of the lyrics take a slightly darker turn when the narrator reveals that he's turned into quite an asshole after becoming a father, essentially, and he's trading in the family life and nights by the telly for pub hopping and quid dropping. So he's become an alcoholic and a degenerate gambler. And this is kind of taken a toll on the relationship. And as he delivers this is musically my favorite part of the song, because honestly, it's not that I don't musically like the song. It's all very one note. And I think it's that way to make the focus on the storytelling aspect of it, and just to make a very simple but enjoyable canvas on which to paint the picture of the story from a lyrical standpoint. But the one thing that shows you, or shows me, I should say, I shouldn't be speaking on behalf of everyone else or, you know, folks in the audience, but for me and my first listen, the part that proved to me that these guys probably, aside from you also confirming that Jules fucking Holland is in the band, that they are musical geniuses, is that they rein in the sound. And the final verse is a bit more reserved, like it's almost shrunk inside itself. The sound has contrition, which I think is a genius move when you hold it up against the theme of the lyrics, which is outright literal contrition. And this is Atmosphere 101 from the University of Songwriting. Like, I believe the keys are replicating this sort of stringy sound, which also carries with it and reinforces the heaviness and the remorseful tone of the singer. So it's at this point that we find out that the relationship between the narrator and his wife, girlfriend, I'm not sure. I guess they got married. I didn't catch every bit of the lyrics. That relationship had crumbled, and he begs for forgiveness to no avail. And he sounds like he's pretty shite at asking for it. And she doesn't write him back. And so he then finishes with "I'm really up the junction," I think is the last phrase. Now, It's funny because the one phrase I do know that y'all use over there, or at some point did, that starts with the same two words is up the duff. And that is to mean pregnant, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So a lot of this, I mean, this song
That
could
would be a
called,
plot twist if he's not pregnant now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But if it had been called Up the Duff or She's Up the Duff or something like that, that would have actually been a serviceable name. Now maybe it wouldn't be as serviceable as the name Up the Junction because this old yank doesn't know what the fuck that means. But I'm sure when you explain it to me, when you translate the slangdom of it, it will make more sense to me. Also, I just think I do like the music didn't wow me or anything. That wasn't the point of this song, so it hasn't gone over my head. And for that reason, I think it's like A+ storytelling song. If that it could be some sort of its own category or whatever, you know what I mean? But I really enjoy giving this a listen. And from what I've seen, just going in and reacting to it and pulling out and seeing all of the other like suggested videos, this one looks like it's been reacted to a lot. I had no idea. So it's interesting to see that this obviously has some sort of cult following that would ignite the kind of 10 or so requests to have reactions to by other channels that I saw there. So interesting. I'd love to know more about the band and the song and what the fuck Up the Junction
Yeah.
is.
Cool. Okay, I'll get into the band and then we'll do the song. So Squeeze, mostly from Deptford, which is London, 1974 to 1982, 1985 to 1999, and 2007 until present. They're described as new wave. I struggle with this one: post-punk, pub rock, and power pop. So it was Chris Difford, guitar, vocals, lyrics, and Glenn Tilbrook, vocals, guitar, music, formed the band in March 1974. Now, legend has it that Difford says he stole 50p from his mother's purse to put a card in the local sweet shop window to advertise for a guitarist to join his band, although he didn't actually have a band at the time. Tilbrook was the only person who answered to the advertisement. They soon added a certain Mr. Jules Holland, keyboards, and Paul Gurdon, drums, to form an actual band. The group performed under several names, most frequently Captain Trundlow's Sky Company, or Skyco, before selecting the band name Squeeze as a facetious tribute to the Velvet Underground's often derided 1973 album of the same name, which is terrible. And long after Louis left. Gilson Lavis replaced Gunn on the drums, and Harry Kakuli joined on bass in 1975. Interestingly, their first EP, which is called Packet of Three, 1977, and most of their self-titled debut album, 1978, was produced by Mr. John Cale for A&M Records, obviously a former member of said Velvet Underground.
Yeah.
Interestingly, the two hit singles from the debut album, Take Me, I'm Yours and Bang Bang, were actually produced by the band, as the label found Cale's recordings uncommercial. Which is no surprise.
I was going to say, no surprise there.
Band's second album, Call for Cats 1979, contained the band's two highest charting UK singles, which were the title track Call for Cats and Up the Junction, both of which hit the number 2 spot in the singles charts. So big breakthroughs.
Yeah, good work.
After that, Jules left for a solo career in 1980. He was replaced by Paul Carrick, who is a very talented keyboard and player and singer. Lots and lots of stuff. Prior to Squeeze, he was actually a keyboardist in Roxy Music for a while as well, but diamond bloke as well. They recorded Sweets from a Stranger LP in 82, and negative reviews, stress of touring, conflict amongst the members led Difford and Tilbrook to break up the band later that year. They went on and did other stuff, together as a and they've done an album which is just the two of them, and it's considered a Squeeze album by all fans, you know. And then they sort of formed again, had another tranche, split up, formed again, etc., etc. So, Up the Junction, this song, third single from Cool for Cats. It's sung by Glenn Tilbrook, who you mentioned. It is what probably their most popular song and really well thought of and fondly remembered, particularly in the UK. Up the Junction is also the name of a collection of short stories by Nell Dunn, first published in 1963. Lyricist Chris Difford said the title phrase was lifted from the 1965 TV play version of the work directed by Ken Loach and the subsequent 1968 movie version. So although the song's not specifically about the TV drama, it alludes to some of its themes and locations. So what we're talking about here is really that sort of late 50s, 60s British phenomenon, kitchen sink drama.
Okay.
So you've got something like Don't Look Back in Anger or Saturday Night, Sunday Morning as this song, and your verve pipe is more, I don't know, I Know What You Did Last Summer or something like that. It's the differences in terms of the thing. It's not that, obviously, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And really the song can be summed up in 3 words, which is own worst enemy. And that's what it's all about. So Difford wrote the lyrics to this in New Orleans when they were on tour over there, and he passed it on to Tilbrook, who then wrote the music. The title is not sung until the final line, and Difford has been quoted as saying he took that from Roxy Music's Virginia Plain, where Brian Ferry doesn't say the words Virginia Train till the very last 2 words.
It's interesting, all this like he's writing his own story. But in a lot of ways, he's taking little Easter eggs and all these little allusions to other things and like popping them in there without being like ham-handed or without like lifting, essentially thieving material, right? So that's really cool and clever.
And there's more. So Tilbrook said the music was also inspired by Bob Dylan's song Positively 4th Street, and the lack of chorus or any lyrical repetition at all, which is very unusual in a mainstream pop hit, was due to Tilbrook saying that a repeated section would upset the flow of Difford's narrative, and he wanted it to go all the way through. And that's why they kept the music, you know, simple as well.
Well, the music does that, like that lack of a vocal hook. Which is very emblematic of pop music, is kind of replaced, or the weight is carried by this just driving, repetitive, very hooky in its sound, chord progression.
Yes. So the phrase "up the junction" is slang, British slang, for being in deep trouble, and it's very familiar to similar to the American phrase "up the creek without a paddle."
Yeah. Okay.
That's what it means.
Yeah.
So it's also like other lines in the song, a reference at the time to working class area of Clapham Junction, which is in Battersea in London, and Clapham Junction is a major transport hub. And Clapham Common, he mentions the Windy Common, is it's used for all sorts of activities. I'll put it that way and no more.
It's like a lovely place. I can't wait to visit.
Yeah. Now, the video showed the band playing inside a flat. That was actually the kitchen of John Lennon's old house.
No shit. Okay, that's a weird
and it's the
thing.
house where Lennon made the promotional film for Imagine.
Wow, that's super cool.
It is, isn't it?
Easter egg on Easter egg. Plus, weird that I brought up John Lennon earlier for a completely different reason. He still finds his way into the story here.
They were compared to Lennon and McCartney for a short while because of their
songwriting penchant. Yeah.
Two of them and all that. Yeah. I never thought it would happen with me and a girl from Clapham. Outside, just at any point, stop me. If any of these are too slangy or whatever, just stop me and I'll explain that. So I never thought it would happen with me and the girl from Clapham out on the Windy Common that night. I ain't forgotten when she dealt out the rations with some or other passions. I said, "You are a lady." Perhaps she said, "I may be." We moved into a basement With thoughts of our engagement, we stayed in by the telly, although the room was smelly. We spent our time just kissing. The railway arms were missing. That's a pub.
Thanks. Okay, because
But
that was going to be the first time I stopped you to clear something up.
Lover's got us hooked up on all our time it took up. I got a job with Stanley. He said I'd come in handy. He started me on Monday, so I had a bath on Sunday. I worked 11 hours and bought the girl some flowers. She said she'd seen a doctor and nothing now could stop her. I worked all through the winter, the weather brass and bitter. I put away a tenner each week to make her better. And when the time was ready, we had to sell the telly. Late evenings by the fire with little kicks inside her. This morning at 4:50, I took her rather nifty down to an incubator where 30 minutes later, she gave birth to a daughter. Within the year, a walker. She looked just like her mother, if there could be another. And now she's 2 years older. Her mother's with a soldier. She left me when my drinking became a proper stinging. The devil came and took me from bar to street to bookie. No more nights by the telly. No more nights nappies smelling.
Now, my only question there is, he sold the television and they were hanging out by the fire, but all of a sudden they've got another TV?
No.
Okay.
He's remembering. This is
Okay.
time
Okay.
going through. So he's remembering.
Got you. He's hearkening back.
And then no more nappies either, because it's 2 years older. So she's not even having nappies anymore.
Yeah.
And then we drop down. And this bit, like you said, it's almost like it's by candlelight. It's very that alone here in the kitchen, again, kitchen sink drama. Alone here in the kitchen, I feel there's something missing. I beg for some forgiveness, but begging is not my business. And she won't write a letter, although I always tell her. And so it's my assumption I'm really up the junction. And there you go.
Yep.
It's a marvelous song, and it's people, especially in this country, have a real fondness for it. As you say, musically, it's just very, very simple, but it's like a whole drama. It's a soap opera in 3.5 minutes or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
And yeah. So, as I said before, the band reunited 2 more times, and they're still going in their 3rd phase to present day. They've released 16 studio albums, in addition to the current 7 members. There have been a further 24 members contributing either in the studio or in live performances. So they've had a few in and out. And just to finish, many bands and artists who would later achieve great success would begin their careers opening for Squeeze. Certain little bands like Dire Straits, The Jam, REM, The Specials, U2, and XTC. It's not a bad little lineup, is it?
No. And you know what's funny about that is like being open to like introduce all these new acts that you like to larger crowds is the same ethos behind what Holland does on his show for a lot of artists, or did for a long time anyway. So I love that like avuncular sort of I'll take you under my wing attitude as an elder statesman of rock and roll to these new up and comers. That's really, really, really cool.
So there you go. Up the Junction by Squeeze. Yeah, it's a bit of a sort of institution in this country, really, for people of a certain age, I guess.
No, the storytelling is so good, and it leaves you at such a place that I'm now like wishing that years later they picked up and told you the rest of this guy's story, because you almost start to feel for the poor bastard, even though he shot himself in the foot and done it to himself. You're like, God, I hope his relationship with his daughter gets better. I hope the wife can forgive him. And yeah,
song will be him climbing up the scaffolding or some unfinished building, dressed as bloody Batman, Fathers for Justice, falling off and breaking his hip, and then having to piss into a bag for the rest of his life.
Yeah, okay, then give me that song, but that's got to that would have that would have to be metal or something like that with the
Anyway, well, thanks. I'll wrap things up. Thanks for listening to this, Andy. Folks out there, tell us what you think of Squeeze, Up the Junction, Jules Holland, all that stuff. Please drop some comments if you like this. Do hit the like button and let us know how fondly remembered this song is. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do. And all this meaty goodness could be yours. on a regular basis, 5 days a week.
That's right.
We really appreciate everybody who does support the channel. So thanks for everyone who has subscribed, and we look forward to more of you joining in the future. That being said, thanks again so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.